we're going to be transforming this simple 5x7 piece of paper and these paper squares and this little canvas into its beautiful lustrous quilt and the night sky with the North Star in it. So the first thing we're going to do is to figure out where we want the North Star to be in our sky. So we want the sky to be, I want mine to be in the upper portion of the quilt. And so I'm going to put it right about there. And I want my North Star to be somewhere not directly in the center of this canvas, but maybe up to the right a little bit. So I'm just going to hold my pen there and then move the canvas and then mark that place on my paper right there. That's where my North Star is going to be. And I'm just not going to cover that up when I make my quilt. So here we have our pieces of the quilt, and all I'm going to do is just put Mod Podge down on this piece of paper just pretty quickly and kind of slapdash and just get it down like this. I don't want tons and tons of Mod Podge on there, but I just want to get it nice and sticky for my quilt pieces. I'll leave this bottom portion not done yet to give myself some time. And then I'm just going to start laying these quilt pieces down on top like this. And I want the colors to be kind of random. I don't want to put all the browns in one place. And I'm going to have them just hanging off the edges like this, see? So I want to cover up all the white, all the background, and leave a little bit extra hanging off the edge. And then here I am down to where I hadn't done any Mod Podge yet, so I'm going to put some under here. And don't worry, we'll get all the flyaway edges before we're done. This is just to kind of get things down in place. And there we go. I'm going to add some green. I want these to not, you could do them all square like that, but I'm going to put mine at angles too, because I just like that. Here's what this one is, let's see, a little bit at an angle. And I want to put another green one up here. So I'm just going to add to this area and put a green one here, because I like green. There we go. All right, and then this area at the very bottom. One more, put this one here. And now that that's done, I'm just going to turn the whole thing over and cut off everything that hangs over the edge. So I don't want to cut into this 5x7 piece of paper. I want to leave a nice straight edge, so I'm just cutting off the extra quilt squares that are hanging off. I'm not cutting this background sheet of paper. So I'm being careful not to do that. I want the edges nice and straight. So I get my scissor blade right up next to the edge and carefully trim away everything that's hanging off. Okay, and then now that we've done that, you can see, of course, that there's some that are just barely hanging on. So I'm going to get more Mod Podge and go underneath all those pieces that are just barely hanging on. And I'm going to go on top as well, because by the time this is done, we're gonna have Mod Podge all over this whole thing. Make sure there's no flyaway edges here. I don't think so. So now I'll just go ahead and cover the whole thing. I hope that you have something underneath your quilt here that you're working on to protect the furniture. You don't want to get your dining room table or your dad's desk or wherever you are all sticky, right? So I'm not going to leave any white streaky places because they'll take longer to dry. But I'm not worried if I can see the Mod Podge on here. Oops, here's a place that didn't get glued down, because it's all gonna dry clear, right? It's gonna dry clear with a nice, soft luster, just like old Ritz quilt did. I think some of these pieces are so pretty. I like to think about what they might have been when they were in the big house. They might have been a beautiful evening gown, or a man's suit, right? This one in particular that I didn't use looks like a man's suit, doesn't it? Pinstripe. All right, so that's about it. And I'm gonna set this aside to dry. Now it's time to make our night sky. And we have black and we have blue here. I want my sky to be, well, to be plenty dark, but mostly blue. So I'm just gonna put a nice amount onto this canvas, and I'm gonna just mix it a little bit. Maybe a little bit darker than that. And now I'm just gonna cover the whole canvas with this paint. And I'm gonna kind of pay attention to brush strokes a little bit, because it will show, your strokes will show. And so you might do something sort of Van Gogh. But I kind of want mine to be just even. I have a little extra on here, so I'm taking that off with my brush. And I'm gonna make sure to get the sides as well. We don't want any white showing at all in our sky. All right, our next step is to add our quilt top to the canvas. So we're gonna need a lot of glue for this. We really wanna get this to stick. So I'm just gonna put this on and put a lot of it on. All right, this is pretty much dry, and you can see I've taken my brush and made sure to get underneath all of these edges, so they're pretty flat and stuck to the canvas. The next thing we're going to do is take this toothpick and just go into our North Star and push and poke a hole through the canvas like that. Then we'll take our night sky that's nice and dry by now, and we're going to glue it to the top portion of this canvas, which is our quilt. And do notice that we're at the top of the quilt and of the project. You can see that the eye hook is here at the top, so we know that we're going to, when we hang it up, the sky will be in the upper half of the project. So also I'm noticing, I'm pointing out that my brush strokes are going this way horizontally, and I want to make sure that that stays that way. We want horizontal brush strokes. I don't, unless it's a rainy night, that would look more like a rainy night, I think. So we're gonna glue this on this direction. Before we go any further, we want to be sure to get our quote on here. So let's just put the black mat down first. and position it right in the middle of the bottom. Make sure that it's very parallel to the bottom edge and right in the middle of the canvas. And then we'll do the same with the quote itself. Make sure there's nothing, no paint that is wet where you're working. I've had that happen a couple of times. I put my project in dark paint without meaning to. And then we'll center this right here. Our last step is to put our North Star in place. But before we can do that, we have to take out this little piece of paper that's in here that saves our battery. So if you take this apart, unscrew it, there's this little piece of paper here, and that is keeping this coil from touching the battery surface. So we just take it out and put it aside, and then we screw this back together again, like that. And then we test it. You see how it says off and on? Twist it till it says on, and your light should go on. Then we're gonna put some glue right here around the flame, around the star, like this. Plenty of it, again. And we're just going to push that star right through the hole we made into our project, like that. And then if you turn it over, and you see, you should be able to see very, very faintly where that star is shining. But we're gonna make a hole. I can see it's right there. So I'm gonna take my toothpick and I'm just gonna make my hole right there. And that lets my North Star shine through the night sky. All right, our final step is to add the moss and grapevine to the top of our project. We're gonna add it to this little hook up at the top. So to do that, we'll just turn over the project and lay the bundle like this. You see that? And then we're just gonna tie the twine ends together around that hook, that little eye hook. I'm just gonna tie it like that. I'll just do one little tie, and I'm gonna turn it over. And I'm pretty much done. I mean, I can fiddle with that and make it look a certain way, but I think it looks great just the way it is. I love the way the grapevine just looks so natural, and the moss reminds us of the moss on the trees. And this can be hung from this hook here. If there's a little nail in the wall or a pin, and you can hang it right from that eye hook. And there you go. Beautiful.